name is Phoenix Bar here and welcome to Pokemon Power Nuzlocke. Now yes, this is going to be a slightly different style of video. Sorry this has been taking so long, but yeah, I've been very busy with New Year's and stuff. Hope you're all okay and had a good Christmas and holidays and whatever. But yeah, let's get started then, shall we? And let's go over the rules for those of you that don't know. Right then, now I must catch the first Pokemon I see in each new area, and surfing, fishing and in trees count as their own areas because there are only certain Pokemon you can find in them. I must name all of my Pokemon I should get, and I don't think there'll be any kind of themes or whatever, I'm just going to do whatever. And then when a Pokemon faints, I must release it into the wild. So yeah, those are the rules, so let's go. So after meeting Professor Ivy and being told what Pokemon are, she asked me if I'm a boy or a girl, and then we wake up in our bedroom, being shouted at our mother because she wants us, and after finding out if the professor's in the woods, we head out the door and explore Miko Town, meet one of our rivals called Kilo, and another one called Caroline. But after introductions are out of the way, we made our way into the woods, and we find the professor being chased by a wild Centret. So now of course we have to choose what starter we pick, so naturally I'm going to go with the grass squirrel Pokemon Skirly, who I name Moss. And of course now the Centret wants to battle us now that we have our starter, and we see that this Centret is a grass type, I'm going to guess. So then we send out Moss and we go for a scratch. It takes that down into the yellow. The Centret uses Scratch again, taking us down by a little bit, and then after a couple of scratches we take down the Centret. The professor thanks us, takes us into her Pokemon lab for a bit where she explains to us what our journey is all about, and then she gives us all a Pokedex, and on the way out we get ambushed by this guy who gives us 5 Pokeballs. So after we go out the lab, our mum gives us the Pokegear and the running shoes, which is going to be really helpful. And of course naturally we're allowed in Route 1 now, so our first encounter is going to be a Hoothoot. And after a couple of scratches we managed to catch our first Pokemon in the run. Now this particular Hoothoot turns out to be a dark and flying type, which is a very welcome addition to the team straight away, and I decide to call him Nocturne. So now after leaving Route 1 and getting some berries, we run into Caroline at the very end of it, who says that she called Sparrow and wants to battle us, and she sends out Sparrow first, so I send out Moss, and I go for his newly learned Leafage, which takes him down into yellow. Sparrow uses Tackle, who brings Moss down into the red, and that was a critical hit. So I use another Leafage to knock out Sparrow, and then she's going to send out her starter Pokemon, which is Volkinder. So yes, I'm going to swap out into Nocturne. So first of all against Volkinder, I use Growl, but first of all Volkinder's faster and manages to land a Tackle on Nocturne, not doing too much damage. And the same thing happens again, but this time Nocturne's into the yellow. But we do manage to knock down Volkinder's attack a few times before Caroline uses Defense Curl to raise his defense 1 stage. So I try and use Astonish on her just to see how much damage we do, and not a lot. So then I decide to heal Moss, and then Volkinder uses Defense Curl again to raise his defense up by 1 more time, which is a bit of an issue because this is a first battle that we're having with her, and we don't really have that many special moves, so this is going to be a long fight. And yeah, Volkinder uses Tackle again on Nocturne, knocking him into the yellow. So yeah, I decide to swap into Moss. And as soon as I do, she uses Tackle on me, but I decide to try and use Scratch, which does about half her health. But after a couple more scratches, We get her down into the red, and she finally uses another defense girl. And now, because Volkinder's into the red, we manage to get off another scratch with Moss, ending the fight. So she heals our Pokemon after the fight, and then tells us that she wants to go to the next city. So then she leaves us alone, and we make our way into the next area, which is just around the corner in Lakeville Town. So first of all, we're going to the Pokemon Center, and we headed to the Pokemart just to get some more supplies. Then after that, we speak to this guy, and he gives us 10 friend balls. But then when we're heading into town, Kilo catches up with us now, and it seems like he wants to battle us. So yeah, he wants to start out with this Chien Monk, and I send out Moss. Now first of all, I start with the Leafage to take him down into the yellow before his Chien Monk uses Growl to lower our attack. But because he's so low, we just use another Leafage, and his Chien Monk is down. Now the second Pokemon he wants to send out is his Water Starter Pumpor, and that won't be any problem for Moss here, and we just use a Leafage to knock him down to the red before he uses Tackle on us. But again, like with Chien Monk, we just hit him with another Leafage, and that's the second Pokemon down. Now he heals our Pokemon this time, and then he tells us to go to another route, and then we find ourselves on Route 2 where we run into, a male birdie. And after a critical hit scratch, we managed to catch him. Now Birdie is a normal and flying type Pokemon, and I decide to call him Bolshoi. Awesome. Now that we're at the end of Route 2, we can go into this area, which is a Rockall Forest. So we can get our next encounter here. Also, Route 2 took ages, so yeah. That's why I cut most of it out. Oh, we encounter a female Swaddle. Okay. So that's really, really cool because Leavanny is a real powerhouse when she gets going. And after a few back and forths, we managed to catch her. And I decide to name her Clover. Now then, we carry on with this forest. I battle a load of trainers along the way, and eventually manage to find our way out of it again, where we make it into Dandel City and some Team Astral grunts are causing a problem in the museum. So before that, we go ahead and heal. So after going to the museum, it looks like there's trouble, and they want us to fight them. So first of all, the Team Astral Gun sent out a Thiefcoon and a Nickit, and I'm just going to assume that they're both dark types. And I send out Nocturne and Moss. So yeah, first of all, Nocturne goes for a peck against the Nickit, and we go for a scratch against the Thiefcoon. which knocks them both into the yellow, and Nickit goes for a growl, which causes Nocturne's defense to fall, and the Thief Coon uses a growl as well, which causes our defense to fall even more. So this is a bit of an issue, but luckily though we both managed to overcome it, and the Nocturne uses Peck on the Nickit, and then we go for a scratch on the Thief Coon again. But before we manage to do that, Nickit goes for a quick attack, which is Nocturne for not much, but we do manage to scratch it and knock out the Thief Coon. Now Team Astral's second Pokemon is another Hoothoot, so our Nocturne use another Peck on Nickit, and then I've have Moss use a scratch on the Hoothoot just to see how much he does. But of course we take out the Nickit, and then takes down about a third of the Noctowl's health before he uses Hypnosis on Moss, putting him to sleep. Just before the first Team Astral Grunt send out a female Venipede. So of course, because Venipede's our bug type, we go for a... And of course Nocturne goes for an Astonish on the Noctowl, not really doing that much. The Venipede uses a Poison Sting on Nocturne, doing hardly anything. Noctowl goes for a Peck, knocking out about a quarter of Moss's health, before we go for a Peck on the Venipede and try and use Scratch on the Hoothoot. But of course Moss is asleep. And of course the Venipede has Poison Point, Poison and Nocturne, but hopefully that won't be too much of an issue in this fight. And yet Moss stays asleep as we try and go for Scratch. The Venipede goes for Defense Curl, raises its defense by 1 stage, which isn't really too much of an issue for now. The Hoothoot goes for Astonish on Moss, which doesn't really do anything, and Nocturne is unfortunately still hurt by the poison, but we go for a Peck on the Venipede and try and again use Scratch on the Noctowl. And then Moss wakes up after Peck knocks the Venipede down to the red, and then Moss is able to use Scratch on the Noctowl, knocking it down into the red. And the Venipede uses a move that knocks Nocturne into the red. Unfortunately I blinked, so I didn't get a chance to read what that said. And luckily though, Moss was hit by the Hoothoot. So this is looking really rough for Nocturne right now. So yeah, I'm going to switch. And then yeah, go for another Scratch against the Hoothoot. Just after we switch back out to Bolshoi. So yeah, just after Bolshoi comes out, we do a Scratch to knock out the Hoothoot. And then I'm going to go for a Gust against the Venipede, and then I'm going to use Scratch against it as well. Scratch goes off first, so of course Moss gets the kill there. And that's the fight done without losing any Pokemon. Just. And now Moss wants to evolve right after that fight. And straight after that fight, Moss evolves into Bramble. So then after that, they want to... So now that that's happened and we beat those two, they're a little moody about it, so their boss wants to take us on as well, so okay then. And the first Pokemon he wants to send out is a level 9 male Juvie. And of course our first Pokemon is Nocturne because I forgot to swap out or anything, so yep. And because our first Pokemon's Nocturne, who's at 1 health and is poisoned, I'm going to switch into Moss. And as soon as I swap to the Juvie, use Thief on Moss, knocking him down into the red. So of course I try and use Razor Leaf to see how much damage that does. Oof. And that was a critical hit, one hitting the Juvie with Razor Leaf. So then he wants to send out his second Pokemon, which is an Ekans. And I decide not to swap out, just to see how much it does. And now that Ekans is out, I'm deciding to swap to Bolshoi. And as soon as I swap out to Bolshoi, he gets bitten by the Ekans. Which of course is another critical hit, knocking Bolshoi down into the yellow. And just after we do that, because the Ekans is faster, he manages to poison the Bolshoi before we get a Gust in, which takes the Ekans down by a quarter. But of course I'm going to heal up straight away. Now right now I'm going to have to make a rough decision and heal up Moss. So unfortunately Bolshoi has to go down here. And of course if Bolshoi wasn't poisoned there, he would have lived. I managed to get another attack off on Ekans. But yeah, sometimes in a Nuzlocke you gotta know when to sacrifice some of your Pokemon. So unfortunately, although he wasn't with us for a long time, we did have to get rid of Moss for the greater good. But now the Moss is back out, we're going to go for another Scratch on the Ekans. Oof. Which knocks him down into the red, just before Ekans does a kind of okay Poison Sting, before another Scratch knocks him out. And that's what knocks out the butler looking guy. Now of course after we win the fight they go all upset and run off. And just after we come out of the museum we're met by this mysterious stranger calling herself Brianna, who gives us an XP share which is going to come in handy. And of course when we're done talking to her we're going to make our way to the Pokemon Center to heal up peeps before going into the next area. And while we're here we need to boot up the PC and say goodbye to our first Pokemon. Sorry Bolshoi, as I said you weren't with us long but you did us proud. Right then, after being done with this town, we head on to our next destination now, which is Route 3, awesome, where we can get our next encounter. And it's a level 7 male Dorentu. Okay, I'm going to guess your normal type. And we managed to catch him with no problem at all, no damage needed. And yes, he is a normal type. So I'm going to give this little guy the name of Hazel. So yeah, next we're going to carry on through this route, battling trainers along the way. Hopefully it won't be too long a route. Now when I'm done on Route 3, we run into this mysterious stranger here. He wants to have a chat with us. And then say their name Starry. When we're done on Route 3, we're challenged by the mysterious Starry, who said that she has an Ice-type Scorbunny, so... Okay. Okay, then the first Pokemon is... Peritwinkle, who I'm going to guess is at least a bug type. And I start off with Nocturne. And I start off with Peck. And that takes the Peritwinkle down into the red. The Peritwinkle uses Confuse Ray, which of course confuses Nocturne. But we try and go for a Peck. But Confusion takes hold and he hits himself. And the next move that Peritwinkle uses is Play Nice, which lowers Nocturne's attack. Which is kind of annoying there, so I'm going to swap to Moss. And as I do, she uses Double Team that raises her evasion, which means I might not hit her anymore. So yeah, and I go for a Scratch and that knocks her out. Moving on to Starry's Scorbunny. Now this is a bit dangerous considering the Moss is a grass type, but we'll just have to see. So yeah, the Scorbunny goes for Fury Attack, doesn't really do that much, so I try for a Razor Leaf, which fully crits the Scorbunny, knocking it out. Now she has a third Pokemon, Cell Kid, which I believe is another starter from another game, but I of course go for Razor Leaf again, one hitting the Cell Kid, knocking it out, beating Starry, so she wanders off, while we just go to the next area. And now that we're at the very end of Route 3, we're going to a cave, which is No Mod Cave, so of course we get another encounter in here, and it is a level 6 Diglett, who managed to catch just fine after a couple of tackles from Hazel. Now this particular Diglett is a ground and grass type, which makes sense, and we call him Tango. Alright then, after we caught him, we can make our way out of the cave now, into No Mod City, where we have a little walk around and we talk to this guy, and he gives us a hammer, which is the equivalent of Rock Smash, I think. And we also go back into the Pokemon just to top up on items. So first of all we go into the Pokemon Center, then we go to the Pokemon Center to get everyone healed up, ready for the first gym. And this fisherman gives us an old rod, just for talking to him. And now it's on to the first gym. And I decided to switch our clothes to the first position because we found out that this is a dark gym. So yep, on to the first trainer. The first trainer, Punk Girl Giggle, sends out a Nickit, who's at level 12, so that should be fine. And of course we send out Clover, who starts off the battle with a Bug Bite. After the Nickit lowers Clover's special attack with Snarl, but again that doesn't really do much damage. So Clover goes in with her Bug Bite, knocking out the Nickit in one shot. So now it's on to Trainer 2, who says he's going to steal my Poké-Dollars, and he sends out his Thief Coon first. So of course we send out Clover again, and we try a tackle this time just to see how much we do. Not that much. He uses Pound, which takes about a third of Clover's health. So then we go out for another Bug Bite, and now Thief Coon is down. On to the third trainer, and this time we have Guy Hades, who sends out his Minion. And of course we start off straight away with a bug bite, because I'm not quite sure what type he is. Oof. And that's a critical hit, knocking him down to the red. He hits Clover for a little bit, we're going for a tackle, and that's Minion down. Thank you, Clover. And now we're on to the gym. And now that we're on to the first gym leader here. So here we go. And gym leader morphs out with her Minccino, first of all. And of course we start out with the newly healed Clover. Now Minccino has Intimidate, which is a bit of an issue for Clover, but we still should be fine. And so I start off with a strong bug bite, after he uses Assurance to do not that much to Clover. She sends him down into the yellow, so we go in for another bug bite, but of course she switches out to her Totodile. So Clover does about a third damage too, so we try another tackle just to see how much he does. Doesn't really do that much, but Totodile uses Flame Wheel, which Clover of course is quad weak to, and that knocks Clover down. Oh man, that loss in this first gym is like, that hits hard, man. I know we haven't had Clover for that long, but that really is sad. So I decide to go for Moss, so the Clover's sacrifice won't be in vain. Now we do have to be somewhat careful here because we know that Totodile is Flame Wheel, but luckily she decides to go for Bite instead, which is really lucky, and we know that we go first. Not before though she uses a potion, we use Scratch, leaving it into the red. She uses a potion again to heal up, and yeah, I think we're just going to keep on using Scratch here. Whew. And because she'll swat, we knock out the Totodile. Okay, now it's on to her last Peep, which is a Rascoon. Now I'm going to go for Razor Leaf this time, after she uses Assurance, knocking Moss down into the middle. Now the Razor Leaf knocks it down into the yellow, so I decide to go for a Scratch while Rascoon goes for a Growl, lowering our attack, which is really unfortunate because then that leaves Rascoon on a sliver of health just before she goes for another Assurance, leaving Moss in the red, but we manage to scratch her way to victory. And now she's down to her last Pokemon, and I think that's a Minccino from earlier. So then, our Minccino's got Intimidate that lowers Moss's attack, so do I go for it or do I switch out Pokemon? Neither. I'm going to go for a Potion here on Moss, just to be safe. Then of course the Minccino goes for another Assurance, so we're just going to go for Scratch, leaving it into the red. Ooh. No, it goes for a Taunt, okay. And we just go for another Scratch, leaving us the win this time, earning us our first badge, the Thief Badge, and a TM58 Assurance.